Okay, I'm
Maybe,
gonna just quickly step away and refresh my drink before we begin.
Maybe trying to make dinner while you're doing a podcast.
Yeah, do that too.
Maybe on
I'll just let you monologue for a bit while I refresh my drink. Then
maybe it's time to share that link. Maybe it's time to share that link with some people.
Oh, I've put it out on Facebook already.
Maybe well, I'm sharing it with my girlfriend who
oh, there you go, cool.
Doesn't really use Facebook. I should share it with this fake number I got the other day that keeps asking if I'm Dr. Kevin. I should share it with them.
Yeah, tell them to come listen to the Dr. Kevin show.
Yeah, that's right. Come listen. I have a podcast.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Maybe we're just gonna do a live podcast. Maybe that's maybe farts happen. Maybe. It's band things. It's band things. What are they? The fucking band things. It's band things. It's band things. What are they? The motherfucking band things. You can call into the show and we will talk to ya. Right now nobody's listening. How you gonna do ya? Maybe there's people listening. I have no idea actually how to tell. There could be people listening. Band things, band things. I think 2 live people's, me and the host. It's band things, band things. We got a total of 100 occupancy. Band things, just motherfucking band things. What happened in that school? It was probably in the southern United States. It's band things, motherfucking band things. You know, all those super progressive places. It's band things, motherfucking band things. We're up here in Canada smoking that BC herb. It's band things, motherfucking band things.
Hey, you're rewriting our theme song?
I'm not rewriting anything. I'm just making up my own theme song.
Oh, there you go. Our special live episode theme song by Dave Coalmine,
right.
Ladies and gentlemen.
You'll have to go back and listen because it goes for a while. How are you recording this right now? The Podbean app records it for you?
Yes.
As long as you don't switch devices mid-podcast.
As long as weird errors don't happen, yes.
That's right. As long as you don't, digitally bukkake in the face of fate and the Podbean app.
Well, so what happened that time is that my laptop just completely lost connection to the Wi-Fi here.
Right.
And so did all of my computers. And the only thing that I could get connected again was my phone, which is why I ended up reconnecting that way. And I think maybe it was only because I was connecting through data. Never resolved what that problem was. I didn't get back on Wi-Fi until the next morning. But when I talked to the neighbors that run the Wi-Fi, they didn't do anything weird to it. They hadn't moved it. They hadn't turned it off. They hadn't done anything. So
they didn't lose their Wi-Fi either?
Not that they noticed, no.
Oh.
That was very strange.
That is very strange.
Yeah.
It's probably aliens, man.
It probably is.
Probably.
Whatever we were talking about that episode, we were obviously getting too close to the truth, and they had to shut me down.
100%. 100%. It's the thing said on the podcast we're going to lead to that butterfly effect of effect
causing the end of the world. Yeah.
Yeah, the aliens were if Todd keeps going on this tangent, the butt aliens will know, and then the butt alien invasion happens. And,
yeah. We can't let that happen.
No, because for one, they look like butts, and we laughed for days before we fought them, and they were taking over our planet the whole time. But
that's the strategy. You got to look like a butt, and you can take over inches. But anyway,
if you make the right noises and look like the right human anatomy, you can get away with a lot. I think is that's the big kernel of truth in that one.
Just like a kernel of corn in a poop that comes out of a butt.
Exactly. Full circle here, folks. That's what we're all about at Band Things. And by folks, I do mean myself and the host who are just talking to each other.
Yeah. It's fun, though. It's fun.
The link that you gave me, that link that you shared with me, is that a specific link for hosts? Is it a different link? Oh, shit. That was the one I shared, which was a bad idea, right? So how do I share this show, man?
I think I can. Yeah, I can send you the other link. The only thing is, I think like the link I gave you, if somebody follows that, they would join the show, and if they were, well, I don't know if it would even work on a browser, but like they would join the show in the app, and also immediately be on the call talking to us.
Oh, then she should hit it. I shouldn't have let Janine know. She'd think that was she would not appreciate that, but I'd quite enjoy it. I find it quite entertaining. So,
well, you can still send it if you haven't already sent it, or
I already sent it, but then I sent an addendum just now. But it's all good.
Okay. Do you want the other one?
I went to the bottom of the app and there was a little square share looking button. I just sent that out. It worked,
there you go.
I think.
Cool.
Yeah, I think it worked. Dave Coalmine is live on the call for 13 minutes now. I have wrapped a new theme song for the show.
I appreciate that.
Holding out my part of the bargain here. Not drinking. What a fucking bummer. But
yeah,
that's life, man. That's life, bro. Working that day job. I tell you, though, it's the day job that makes you want to drink, and it's the day job that suffers when I do. And so...
Right, that's tricky.
It's a real catch-22 there. I get through a weekend of bar gigs with not being concerned about drinking, and then I go to my really nice day job, doing nice altruistic things for people, and I just want
that's where you need to get loaded.
And I just want to get loaded by 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah, that's tricky. I got a Caesar. I got a Caesar over here is what I'm sipping on.
You know, Todd, that's the life of an oilman.
That is the life of an oilman. Sitting back, sipping a Caesar, doing a live podcast. That's the life of an oilman.
That is correct. That is correct, man. Is it Caesar from a bottle? Caesar you made?
Yeah, it's Caesar I made, but I didn't I just went and got the Clamato, the works for Caesars.
Oh, so it's a two ingredient.
Yeah, it's vodka Caesar. and the Clamato, right. The works.
Do you have any frozen water in there? Really, really.
Ice cubes. Yes, I do have ice cubes in there.
Cool.
I have
so
a couple of
3 ingredients.
Whoa.
I guess
so, yeah.
This is a pretty fancy Caesar. No rimmer.
It is.
No rimmer.
No rimmer. It's a plastic cup because that's how I roll.
Plastic cup. I mean, you can rim a plastic cup. I hope
can you really?
Well, you can rim anything. Giggity. Back to butt jokes.
Is that true? Is that true that you can rim anything?
That's just a butt joke.
Are we going to have to take that to Mythbusters even though they don't exist anymore?
That's right. Can you rim anything?
Can you rim anything?
I don't want to think. My mind went to all sorts of stuff I do not want to rim.
Let's just do this and not talk about banned books. Just do
Let's just continue.
Just do a live show where we just shoot the shit about things.
That's right.
We'll be
Speaking of Elden Ring.
Speaking of Elden Ring. Speaking of video games, every minute that we're not actually doing the proper podcast is a minute that we're not playing Fortnite.
So we should get this shit going, buddy. It's time. Right. Let's get it moving.
So let me. Hang on just a second. That's not what I wanted to do.
You're in charge of the actual podcast.
Yeah. So I guess if we begin the way we always do. Welcome back to another episode of When Bad Things Happen to Good People, a podcast about censorship and the arts. My name's Todd Sullivan. Joining me this week is Mr. Dave Coalmine.
Hello, everybody.
And everybody being, of course, you and I think.
That's right. And anyone who listens to this in the near future.
In their browser, on their web or whatever, not in the app, maybe, yeah.
On their podcatcher. That's what they call them.
On their podcatcher. Oh, afterwards.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We don't have to only address those who are here live. So FYI, guys, this is a live episode for those listening to it later.
Yeah.
We are on Podbean. There's a Podbean app, and you could call in and be a part of the show. So pay attention.
If you had thoughts on our coverage of Mouse, you would be able to call in and engage in the conversation with us. Tell us how we're wrong. Tell us how we're right.
That's right.
Tell us what you're drinking. Even tell us whether you play Fortnite.
That's right. Yeah. Who's your main? That's what I want to know. I mean,
that's what I want.
How you doing? How you doing in the lands between? How's your trip in Limgrave going? These are the important questions that this podcast will not address.
I'm guessing that was an Elden Ring reference.
Those were Elden Ring references.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. That's all garbled up the intro. So let's just say we're about to complete our look at Mouse, My Father Bleeds History. Well, welcome back to the show, Dave.
Hey, man, every freaking time I hear that intro, I really want to freestyle over it. We were going to do that as an outro once. Did we ever do it?
I think we might have done it. I think we might have done it on the Lost Live episode.
Oh, that's what happened. That's probably what happened, the Lost Live episode. So we have a redundancy here, people. I'm capturing it in an OBS recording capture just so that, there'll be redundant. There will be a version of this. It will make
there
it
will be a
version.
No matter what happens, there will be a version of this that releases afterwards. I think I have to admit, and this is maybe selfish of me, but I think it's fun to have like something that can become the infamous Lost episode, right? The episode that like maybe one day, if there's ever enough fans of this podcast that people talk about, is like, what could have been on it? What did they say? We'll never know. It's a mystery. The concept of the infamous Lost episode just seems kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I do get that. That's very romantic. Hate to burst your bubble. Ain't no one ever going to care. But
I care. I care.
I wish that success for you. I do.
Thanks.
I do, of course.
Thanks. All it takes is one person to care. Maybe it's my mom. Maybe my mom is the one who will care because she wasn't able to listen to the live episode that one time, and now she'll never know.
Well, and I think that's the cool thing and that's what we do need to emphasize. This is live. You could call into it and stuff, and it is a different vibe. And to be a part of the live is different than listening to it later. So, pay attention to Todd's social media to be a part of this next time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, one of the things I try to, the reason I want to do these wrap-ups live, ideally, is to get that interaction with people, to find out, if they've read along with us or if they are, culturally familiar with the book already. Do they agree with our takes? Do they think that this should have been pulled from schools? What is their perspective on it? Because, by no means do I think that whatever you and I think is the be-all and end-all of reality. We're just sharing a couple of opinions, and everyone's got a different take on it.
Totally. I know we did the live wrap-up for of Mice and Men, and I got a message later that night from someone. It was a picture of their TV, and they were on the couch watching it.
Oh, wow. That's very cool.
Movie. Yeah, so we inspired a movie watch. Someone spent the $3 to rent it or whatever it was.
It was a pretty good movie, too.
Yeah, it was all right. Hey, it was a good early effort there from everybody involved.
Yeah.
And so today we are talking about it's My Father Bleeds History. So is that the title of the first volume, and then there's a different title for the second volume? How does that work?
Yes. What is the title?
Yeah. So like this is banned media, but turns out most of why it is banned is in the second half, the second volume, I think it is released as one single volume sometimes, or in other iterations. Hence why it's banned as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
On this first half is what we had access to, and unbeknownst to us, the banned material wasn't in the first half.
Yeah. And that's, I would say that's probably, all on me for not, doing sufficient research about what was banned and what wasn't. On the other hand, I don't know if it would have made sense to cover just the second part by itself without the context of the first part.
The context is the word that came to mind with me as well. I do think you need the context of this first book.
Yeah, because even if this isn't, and that's kind of something I wanted to talk about, is the fact that covering just this first part gets us to kind of, pardon me, an unsatisfying ending. And it's unfortunate because I've read Mouse before, but it's been quite a while, and I didn't remember exactly where things end. But basically, this volume just covers kind of pre-war and early wartime for Art Spiegelman's father, Vladek. And it ends with him finally arriving, being captured by the Germans and arriving in Auschwitz. And that's, you would think, where sort of like the real trauma of the story is going to happen. And of course, it's fair to note that this book is about more than just trauma and more than just the war. It's also got huge amounts to do with like Art's relationship with his father, and who his father is as a person, and how who he is as a person is an evolution, I think, of his experiences in the war and all of that sort of stuff.
For sure. I mean, I think it made me think about my own upbringing, my own parents as well. I think that yeah, there's some really great topics discussed. I thoroughly agree with you that I'm sure I cursed aloud when I reached the end of the book, going like,
You
"What?"
did, yeah. I was
Right?
in the
We're
room.
like,
I was in your place when you finished it. Yeah,
oh, I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, and that's the end, man. Like,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's all that build up towards Auschwitz, which is a terrible thing. Not something I'm excited to read, but it was just it loomed large in that first half. There were events that did play out that were alluded to from the beginning. The passing of the firstborn child Riju,
Mm-hmm.
that did happen within the first volume. But yeah, so much of the
Which again,
story.
like that was a really really rough scene, I think, or a rough, you know, um, imagining that situation, the idea of this mother um, who is about to be potentially rounded up by the Germans and sent to Auschwitz, decides that she doesn't want to do that. She's not going to go to these concentration camps. She's not going to go to the gas chambers. So
Yeah.
she kills herself, her children, and Rishu is not even her child, but one that she's tending for the Spiegelman
She's
family.
responsible for all these children, and this is her decision. And boy, that's a greater debate than we have time to have, and I'm not
Yeah,
educated enough to have it. My gut says I couldn't do it, but I don't know. My gut
yeah.
says I wouldn't do it. But I also don't really like the idea of going to a concentration camp very much. Maybe I would. I'm not. I'm not really Mister Stand Up and Seize the Day. Maybe I would be like, fuck that. I'm fucking out. You know what?
Well,
Let's hope for some reincarnation. Peace.
the one thing you brought up, because we did talk about this briefly on the last recorded episode, and one of the things you brought up then was that potentially, at least, and again, this is what we know now, and I don't know if it would be going through your head then, but like, at least there's a potential at Auschwitz for survival. Like, we
Yeah.
do know that there were survivors from Auschwitz. I think so, right? Am I wrong to say that?
No, you're not wrong because Vladek came from Auschwitz and
Right,
Vladek's
exactly,
alive.
exactly.
So definitely some people survived. And I mean, that is the story of Vladek up to this point as well, though, is just his resiliency. This man will not give up, and he's wise to the world and how to get through it, and tended to until he was captured. Have a
Yeah.
good head on his shoulders and a good instinct.
And from early days, knew the importance of having money tucked away.
Always
Yeah.
asset after asset. My goodness.
Like, if there was one thing that he did that was like responsible for his survival through this, it was being able to, you know, pay off this person, bribe this person, make a connection here because of a financial arrangement. Like, money was behind every moment of his survival. And
It
you can
was
see that, later in the story when he's constantly talked about by his new wife and everything else as being this cheapskate who doesn't even want to.
this miserly man. Yeah.
Yeah, like, his new wife doesn't want to buy him clothes, and wants, because he's got this closet full of clothes from his
Yeah,
dead
Vladek
wife.
wanted Mala, his second wife, to wear the clothing of the deceased first wife, Anya, as a way to save money. And I get it. I understand Vladek. I think you get an understanding of him. Um, that's one of the cool things about how just real it is, right? Like, Art is in this story, and I don't think he holds any punches about how he acts or about how his father acts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that Art is always painted in the best light either.
No, and in fact, for one, there's a moment where, because the comic details Art's creation of the comic as well. There's a moment where he's talking to Mala and kind of saying like he feels bad about how he's portraying his dad, and it's almost like he is that stereotypical
Yeah.
greedy Jewish person, but all he's doing is just literally explaining how his father behaves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting one. So like highlights, man. What were some highlights for you from this first half? What are things that stick in your mind still to this day?
Wow. So, I mean, to start with, just because we are just talking about it, a big one is sort of the relationship between Artie and Vladik and how that's portrayed and how real it feels, and how much I feel like we get to know both of those, not just characters, but these are real people. Um, I think if there was like a single sort of image or something that sort of stood out to me, there's two of them. One is when they're on the train heading to where Artie's first wife, whose name I can't remember right now, not Artie,
Anya.
Vladik. Anya, right? Thank you.
Yeah, so Vladik and Anya, because they're going to the is this after the honeymoon? Honeymoon, yeah.
Yes, and it's going to the hospital, right? She's going to the hospital because she's
Yeah, it's 38 riding on a train in the center of town, a Nazi flag.
yes,
Word coming from Germany of Jews being forced to sell their businesses and were disappearing or being beaten. But yeah, just that flag out the window of the train was really something else.
yeah. And
Agreed.
also the moment where there were a bunch of Jews who had been doing business together that were rounded up and hung in the street. And again, that was another image that really just struck me, because just trying to imagine what that would be like to just be walking down the street and encounter that these people that had you had just been doing business with, and who, maybe if you had been there at the wrong time, could have been arrested with them. Like that could have been you up there as well. Like again, that was just an image that sort of spoke so much in just sort of one image.
Cool. Yeah, that the flag in the center square also stood out for me in a big way. I think the funnier moments are the ones that also really stick out in my mind. The wire hanger and then the wood hanger the next time that Art comes over, that change of the hanger.
Yeah, the subplot about the arc of Artie's coat.
The arc of Artie's coat and disappearing and then getting a new trench coat. I found some of that stuff kind of funny, and so it stuck out a little bit to me. Another thing that really stuck out was Art Spiegelman's earlier comic
Yes.
about his mother's passing, and how Vladik kind of fell inward and didn't support Art, and Art ended up supporting Vladik through his mourning. The art style to it, like I can't picture an exact pain, but I can like see some like long drawn faces and stuff. I get a sense of it now just thinking back. And then back to comedy, the when he gets caught with all that sugar and then pretends to own the bakery and gets to the back door of this bakery and like is like, I got our sugar, and goes in and like just there's a comedy to that. So yeah, some really great scenes for sure. Yeah, anything else stick out to you? Do you have a happy one? Any happy one that sticks out to you? I mean, I kind of might have just listed the greatest hits there, but
yeah, I mean, definitely like I said, the happy moments between like Artie and his dad. Maybe not happy moments, but just moments of levity or humor. Like I absolutely loved when Artie is leaving at the end of, I think it's chapter 2 or chapter 3, and he's looking for his coat, and he finds out that his dad just fucking threw it out.
yeah, right.
Yeah, it's not a good coat. I didn't like it. I threw it out. Here, you take this one. This is. I used to have this coat. Yeah, you have it. It's a good coat.
Yeah,
Dad, I can choose my own coats now. I'm a fucking grown up.
Yeah, or like he comes over the tape recorder and he's like, I could have got that three-quarter price.
How much did you pay for that?
How much you pay?
You paid $50. I could have got it for $30.
Yeah, exactly. You're just so funny, right? Just no matter what. Yep. It's all about the money too, and I mean, it is all about the money for good reason.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like all of those moments of levity. When you find out why he's like that. It tinges, as much as those moments are funny, it absolutely tinges them all with darkness when you realize where it came from. Like, it's not just this guy's cheap. It is, if this guy hadn't been cheap, he would likely be dead right now.
Oh yeah, it was now here's the thing. Was Vladik always just Vladik and people like Vladik are the ones that are going to survive the war?
Yeah, I mean, maybe to some extent. I think I remember, like, when there was the point where he had made a little bit of money really, really early on. Uh, and he went back to his family and was like, look, I just made this money. Now we can buy some stuff. But he intentionally tucked some of it away
Mhm.
because he knew that, like, they would. And I don't know if that was like, so what I'm saying is, I don't think that was necessarily always him before that. But I think, like, there was a moment where he and the rest of the family were talking about things about how, like, it sucks. Nobody has any money, but this will pass, right? This will pass.
Yes,
It's not a
right.
big deal. We don't have to stress about it. And
He knew it
whatever
was
the
something to stress
reason,
over.
it seemed like something clicked in him that went, this might not be over soon, and we have to think about the future
Yeah,
more
right.
so than everybody else. And that, from that moment on, it was
Mm,
always thinking about the next future and the next future and the next thing you might need to spend a little money to grease a wheel to do whatever.
right. That was such a baller moment, right? Like he's the only member of his family. He's with his wife's whole family
Yeah, yeah,
and no one's making any money and he just happens to like meet a fabric guy he used to work with, gets, some fabric for some stuff, gets it across town, gets some money for it, brings in some money. Everybody's impressed at the amount of money he brought in. He's the only one bringing in money. Father-in-law notices, and then behind all that, he's pocketing some.
yeah.
He's got gold objects then for sure at that point. I'm sure he's got some jewelry and things tucked away already. Like he's just baller. Dude's
Hmm.
baller.
But even then, like, there's got to be a certain amount of luck to it too, because there's a point later when he and Anya's parents are in a prison, a war, like a war prison, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they bribe their way out, but they try to bribe Anya's parents out too, and they're too old. We can't
Mm-hmm.
get them out.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets to the point where the guy actually takes the bribe to get them out, and then just doesn't do it. And
Yeah.
so, again, it's that matter of, like, money is keeping Vladik alive to an extent, but, like, there's, I think, a tremendous amount of luck involved in that survival as well. Just being right places, right times, the right age.
I think it's the
Um,
age. Age is huge, right? Age and fitness. I think there is a certain demographic that's going to make it out, right? At some point, there was nobody over the age of 70 still
yeah,
alive, and then
yeah,
that number started getting lower and lower.
yeah, because they were just whittling out the people that were consuming resources without providing anything, right? So kids, you had too many kids, you're out, because those kids they're eating food, they're not generating any profit,
Totally.
right? And so, to the Germans, the Jewish race was just about, like, how much value are you valuable enough to keep alive? Otherwise, you're dead.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to fight like a many front world war.
Yeah.
Shrewd.
One thing I do want to talk about during this is that kind of the one criticism I remember reading about Spiegelman and Maus is that by portraying these different races as different animals, he's calling it a falling prey to the same kind of racial division that people like Hitler were doing. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes. Yes. Um, I initially thought that it was like pigs as the police force and then people in hospitals. And so
Yeah,
to me, it was like some sort of this like working class was them, like they were the cogs in the machine mucking in the
right.
shit or
You didn't
something
catch
like.
the racial thing, right? Yeah,
Yeah, and so like and I think that, but yes, the idea of yeah, each race being an animal, it's it's interesting because I think about scenes where he's a Jew, and if he's found out to be a Jew, he'll die in Poland, and he's acting Polish,
Yep.
and so it shows him with a pig mask on.
Yeah. Yeah. And those,
I
by the
mean,
way, those are some of my favorite scenes too. Just the way that he was able to take that visual metaphor that extra step further, and in doing so, like, can really streamline the storytelling. Like, you don't have to explain that you're pretending to be a Pole. You just show you wearing the pig mask, right?
yeah, and so like there's this. I'm thinking of this specific scene where he runs into somebody on the street, doesn't know if they're a Pole or a Jew,
Yeah. Right.
and in the first panel you only see the front half of his face, which is a pig. And in the second panel, as he realizes that he's Jewish, it pulls back and shows the string like a mask, because that's what they
Hmm.
wear, like a mask with a string pulling it to your face. And yeah, I mean, so is if you're smart enough about how you use it, is it like elevated above racist or transcend it? That's my question to you. What's your opinion on it?
Yeah. I think it's definitely a criticism that's worth talking about. But I think where I've landed on it, and I literally landed on this about 45 seconds ago, is that because he's telling this story about a world that was so separated by race because of the war, because of Hitler, because of Nazism, that it is fair to take this approach.
It's fair to take this approach due to the time and climate that it's portraying.
Yes, because of the fact that this is a story that is set in that setting where there
Yes.
are those lines, and where us as readers being able to draw distinctions between those lines to know who is German, who is Jewish, who is Polish. Um, I think not only is it fair, but it is also effective, and maybe one of the best ways that you could tell a story like this.
Cool. All right. So that is definitely a thumbs up. Um, well, brazened by your review, sure, I'll go with it. I mean, couldn't tell the story the same way, just couldn't tell it in the same way without it being what it is.
Yeah, and it's because it is such a it becomes visual shorthand after a while, right? Because the way that you talked about with the pig masks and these sorts of things, and knowing from sort of reading synopses of the book, knowing that there are many other races being portrayed by many other animals, there's clearly going to be more examples of this in the second volume. So, like, there's Americans who are horses, there are French who are frogs, there were those are only two I remember off the top of my head, but
Not bad. It brings back an important scene, and that was the Germans over top of a trench full of dead Jews from this battle, and in that one scene, the Germans did not look like dogs like they were portrayed in all the other
they would have been pigs,
panels. No. Sorry, I meant the Nazis. The Nazis.
Oh,
were
right, cats. They're
dogs.
cats, not dogs. Cats, not
Sorry,
dogs.
cats. Right. So the Nazis are cats. That's right. My apologies. The Nazis are cats, and the Jews are mice. And in this one panel, all these Nazi cats don't look like cats at all. They look like humans. And I think
Yeah,
that was very intentional, trying to portray that this is in this kind of most atrocious act was humans.
yeah. Just a reminder that this is a human atrocity. That these things were done by people. These things were, it's not a fantasy of cats and mice and pigs, and we're not reading a happy book about, well, we're not even reading a sad book about animals doing terrible things to each other. This is things that people did to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's definitely a fair point.
So did you enjoy it?
I did. When I look at art of any kind, one of the things I really like about a given sort of art form or given medium is creations that really couldn't have been done in any other medium. Movies that really wouldn't work as anything other than a movie, or in this case, a story that I don't think could have been as effective if it wasn't a comic book, because they weren't able to pull these kind of artistic tricks. And so for that alone, I really, really enjoyed it. I think Art is a pretty stellar storyteller, um, both visually and literally, choosing the segments he's including from his life and from, his time with Vladek, how he's telling his father's story, the meta narrative of it. I think it's a tremendous accomplishment, and I think it is certainly worthy of being the only graphic novel to have won a Pulitzer Prize. So,
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'd recommend it. I think so far anyway that it should have been part of maybe my education, right? I think me getting to digest this in high school wouldn't have been a bad thing.
yeah,
I think it would have been the best perspective. It is the best perspective I've ever had on World War II and what went down. I've never watched Schindler's List for some
right.
reason.
Because that would be the other one that I would mention as as a way of connecting with what happened.
Right. I've watched things like Saving Private Ryan and Band of Brothers, and they don't connect. They connect with a different part of this whole thing, and
Yeah,
this was a perspective and understanding of World War II that um, I had not previously experienced. And yeah, so for that, I appreciate it, and I think that yeah, so that makes it. I took this shit in classrooms and never connected with the experience in the same way. So there's value in what it's doing here, and I
yeah,
think it
totally.
does belong in a high school curriculum,
Hmm.
grade 12.
Yeah, and so that's worth noting, because I'm pretty sure that it was a grade 8 curriculum that it was removed from. Do you think that would be too early for this?
Yeah, I do think so. I do think grade 8 is too early. I don't think that you're mature enough to digest it in grade 8.
That's fair.
Yeah, I remember grade 8. I mean, frick. I had a little thing that hung off my body that made me feel really good. That's fucking grade 8. Like, not fucking mouse, the sad story. I would be jerking off to the one mouse nudity frame that we haven't seen yet of a fucking Holocaust mouse. So that'd be a terrible, terrible little dirty boy, okay? So no, we're not ready in grade 8. But by grade,
Okay, that's
I
a fair
apologize.
argument.
By
That's a
grade
fair
12,
argument.
though, I do think that you are. And so, yeah, by grade 12.
Okay.
Maybe grade 11.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. I would be afraid, and I see where you're coming from with grade 8. I'd be afraid that by grade 12, you're going to encounter certain students who'd be like, "Fuh, I'm too old to read a comic book," and have that kind of pushback, right?
Mm. Anti-comic book. Now, do you think that anti-comic book is a thing in the year of our Lord
That's
2022?
that's maybe fair too. I don't
When the
know. I don't
biggest
know.
movies in the world are comic book
Comic book
characters?
movies, yeah.
Yeah.
And so again, that could very well just be me being like really removed from what it's like to be in grade 12, because I'm a
Yeah.
48-year-old man.
I think the
And
comic books are cool now. I
you
think.
could be right about that, and that's not something that I considered when I made that statement. So maybe I'm
No,
just
yeah,
completely
but
fucking out of it.
but is this the same art style as those comic books, the
No,
ones
it's
that the
absolutely not.
Marvel makes, right? And so there is an argument for that. This is definitely an artsy comic book, not to the same degree as Art's previous work.
Yeah, that he included
Art
there.
and his art, art and his art, but yeah. So there's maybe a little bit of less approachability to it for that. The art style itself. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm a guy who loves all kinds of art styles, and um, I thought this was great. There's a certain minimalism to it that's really appealing. He's got good attention to detail, but able to portray, you know, generally speaking, differences in characters using some very simplistic tools. Like if there was ever a moment that I wasn't sure which character was which, it was
Mm-hmm.
only because there were scenes that had so many family members in it that I only met 2 panels ago.
Yes.
that I can't keep track of, but it was never because, like, if it was Artie, I knew it was Artie. If it was Vladik, and it was Vladik, so.
There were scenes where the fact that it was a room full of mice made things a little less differentiable than I think a room full of men and women.
Yeah.
But that's rare.
But in the same way, like, I have definitely read comic books that featured human beings where I was like, I can't tell the difference between these two characters visually.
100%.
Right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
So I don't think that's
true.
unique to the fact that these are animals.
Oh, okay. All right. 10-4.
Hey, Mr. A and PixXU Jamuka, who have joined us for our episode here.
Yo.
You guys are doing well.
Yeah, for sure. At first blush, I wasn't totally in love with the art style. It did take a couple panels. I got into it though. It just the lack of shading, I guess, like it's exactly what you said, like very simplistic tools used to portray everything. Just like kind of like that deepening cross thatch to create shading versus shading itself. But I got into it. I think at some point I just like fell into like what it was trying to do and really embraced it for what it was.
Right.
And it's the effort of one man, right? Like
pretty much. And again, that's definitely the indie comic element too. The idea that this is not like a whole big production team. It's like, this is a guy at his studio and he's just making his comic book.
Mm-hmm.
There was something I was thinking about bringing up.
Yeah, those are my thoughts on Mouse. So we were talking about doing the second half of it at some point.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, leaving it here, we're not getting to sort of the meat of why it was. We never get to Auschwitz. We don't get to the meat of why it was pulled.
Yeah, or why it was banned. Yeah,
we are, and we have an incomplete story. And one that doesn't even really end, even for the first volume, in a satisfying way. Nope. So I would definitely like to come back to this at some point.
Me too.
And continue with the second part, which is excellent. That's kind of what I was going to, bounce off you and see if that was something you were interested in doing.
Well, I mean, I really echo your sentiments. Like, it just doesn't feel completed. I am too effing busy. Like, you and I are working on a documentary series right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Elden Ring's out. There's a new season of Fortnite.
There's so much going on.
There's a lot of shiitake mushrooms going on right now. I am like totally not just XP farming in Elden Ring in the background while we do this.
I was wondering what those little clicky tappy.
Oh, you guys are getting the clicks, are you?
I'm hearing a few of them. I thought you might have been Googling something, but no.
No, fuck. No, I am just running a horse down a hill, dodging a boulder, and respawning. You know what I'm talking about, Elden Ring people. You know exactly.
Say a quick hello to Chris Wilson, who's just joined us. How you doing, Chris? Thanks for stopping by. I think I recognize that name. I might recognize that name. Yeah, so I would really like to cover the second half of this at some point in the future, and so Agreed. It's good to know you'll be along for that.
Yeah.
Don't know when that'll be. Matter of schedules and everything lining up. But yeah, it's definitely, like I said, I would recommend it. I think I would maybe say definitely grade 10. I definitely think you could cover this in grade 10 and maybe even grade 9. Okay. I echo your sentiment about
High
grade
school?
8, but I also think, I don't know. I also think maybe if there was like a special, if you were in a grade 8 class that was like special literature, like you're smart kids, you really dig literature, that maybe you could get as early as 8 in a situation like that.
I don't know. I mean, I was a matriculated dude who liked art and English, and I don't know if I was there yet, maturity-wise.
It's just because I think, and I think it's because part of it is it's baked into the curriculum of history. Like, certain grades are going to cover World War II and certain grades are not going to cover World War II.
Oh, yes, right.
And if World War II is when it's being covered, or grade 8 is when World War II is being covered, this is a story that opens up World War II to these kids in a way that is way more relatable than anything else, except potentially Schindler's List.
Or Band of Brothers.
I haven't seen that.
Oh, man, that's pretty good shit.
But that's more soldier aspect, right? Like,
it's
if
the
you're
other
trying to find out,
war. Yeah, this is the machinations on the backside of it. What's going on in Poland? How you're treated as a Jew to go through World War II. It's
Yeah.
fucking wild, and I think it's a really great read. I think there's a real value in it for sure.
Yeah.
It gave me some perspective.
And I would say, at the very least, even if not in the curriculum, this should be in the school libraries.
There you go. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
So because honestly, if even if the student's looking for something to like, whack off to, this is probably not what he's going to go to for that one
No,
naked
I
mouse
agree,
picture.
dude. I agree, dude.
So
that's a callback to a conversation. There you go. For all you latecomers, all right.
I appreciate making a callback. Nothing better than a good callback, if you ask me.
I say.
Do you have any other thoughts?
No, I think I've really gotten out. Like, I do think that you need to read this entire thing. We have, what is it? My Father Bleeds History. Is that what this first half is called? Did we ever figure that out? And what's the second half called?
The second half is called, oh man, I just left that page. Something about wartime. Okay. No, now I'm Googling. Something about wartime, I think. No, it's Survivor's Tale. And Here My Troubles
Tale. Okay.
No, Survivor's Tale is, oh my God, the subtitle of the whole thing.
Okay, cool.
Okay, and Here My Troubles Began is the name of the second volume.
And Here My Troubles Began.
Which is
God.
Kind of a wildly ironic title, right? Yeah.
Well, and
like everything leading up to this has been, kind of like, it's been bad, but But here,
that's terrible, guys. Because like this story, Maus, Maus, man, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible what this man has gone through and lost his whole family. And the worst is yet to come. That's wild. Well, they're going to Auschwitz, so of course the worst is yet to come.
Yeah, worst is definitely to come. Chris, I'm sorry, I don't recognize you. You have the same name of someone I used to work with. And so I thought maybe he was dropping by to check out my podcast.
It's a good strong name, yeah.
It is, yeah. And maybe I'll have to check out your 3 international and 1 national podcast about alternative history and military preparedness.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. The one other thing that I think was worth noting that I got to find this because it just occurred to me to mention this. Spiegelman has like one other kind of relatively well-known comic, and maybe I'm wrong about this. I don't really follow alternative comics that well, but he did a comic about the attack on the World Trade Center on September 11th.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. And man, I'm trying to find it, but
he's found his niche here, eh? Just the terrible,
yeah, just tragedy,
events.
Right?
Just the worst shit in human history.
Yeah. Yeah, In the Shadow of No Towers, it was called. And I think part of that, of course, again, because he's writing from his life. He lived in New York. He was in New York when it happened. And I imagine, having read Maus, that it's going to be probably very similar to that, where it's ultimately about his experience with the event, whatever grief he went through, surviving it, whatever, maybe knowing people who died in it.
And making art from your pain. I mean, isn't that the artist's way?
Yeah. I mean, for some, it's, the only way to sort of, process and deal with those things.
Wow. Yeah. Them's my thoughts on Maus, yo. Check it out. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
How'd you pirate yours, Todd?
How did I pirate mine? Well, you pirated yours from me, I think. I mailed it to you.
Yeah, that's right. I just got a PDF in an email.
Yeah. My pirated copy came in sideways. I had to learn how to, without like a proper PDF editor, because I don't have one. I had to find a website that would actually allow me to rotate it and then save it. Because I wasn't going to send you some sideways pirated comic book. What kind of podcast
well,
you
did a little
giving you that kind of shit to read? Yeah, man. I take care of my hosts.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't 90 degrees to the side. Yeah.
You're gonna get a kink in your neck trying to read it like that. Even if you had it on like a tablet or something, I imagine, because like every time you turn it, it tries to write itself, right?
We've all played that song and dance.
We certainly have.
Fuck.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, like we both said, I think this is definitely worth reading for anyone interested in history, for anyone interested in that aspect of history, and even for just sort of fans of the comic book medium and looking at different ways that stories can be told in that medium, and what can make a comic book story unique to other stories.
Yeah. It's good.
It's good. You could take that quote and put it on the cover of the upcoming new paperback edition. It's good.
It's good, period. No
And
exclamation point.
then credit it to When Bad Things Happen to Good People. So that like the name of the publication being quoted has like, I don't know, 8 more words than the quote itself.
Yeah, that's hilarious. That is pretty good.
Okay, well, that's going to bring this episode to an end. I'm not sure what I'm covering next here. That will be decided. Oh, no, I do know. This is exciting. So what we're doing right now, this live episode, is the 49th episode of When Bad Things Happen to Good People. How crazy is that? That means next episode is the
talk to me in 20, buddy.
50th episode.
Can I book myself in for 20 episodes from now?
You want to do number, what would that be? 6? Oh, I see. All right. Okay. Nice. I'm obligated to say nice. I understand. Okay. Well, that's fine. We could, you know what? That's cool. I could play with numbers. I'll just have to find something appropriate for the number 69.
Right.
Maybe a banned porno.
Whoa, I don't want to see that. I do not.
But
want.
There was that weird period in the 70s around like Behind the Green Door and Deep Throat, where porn films were kind of flirting with a certain amount of mainstream interest. Mm-hmm. Like people like going to the theater to watch porn wasn't unheard of. Like cool people were actually doing that briefly. But then maybe there was like the film that like ended that brief flirtation with being okay. That might be interesting to cover. I don't know.
Sure.
Anyway, point is, next episode, our 50th episode, we're doing a big celebration. We're going to be going live again. We are getting back original co-host Oren Barter. He's going to come back. That will be his last episode. His schedule is no longer working, which is why he hasn't been here in so long. But we're going to do a retrospective, looking back on our first 49 episodes
and a send-off live. Fuck,
yes,
you got a date for that?
It'll be assuming nothing happens. It should be 2 weeks from tonight.
2 weeks from tonight, guys.
Yeah. Look back. Favorite moments, least favorite moments. I can already tell you which some of Oren's least favorite moments will be, and they will all include the Turner Diaries.
That's Monday, April 4th, everybody. Monday, April 4th, 7 p.m., whatever fucking time zone we're in.
Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for calculating that, Dave.
Well, I might have a computer on here. I'm doing a lot.
Yeah, right? But you could be busy playing Elden Ring instead of looking this stuff
I have 107,000 runes. I've never had that many before.
Congratulations. I'm glad this podcast was able to help a little bit.
Well, I apologize to everyone listening for the clickety clacks.
It's all good. It was very quiet. Yeah, so that's what the next episode will be. After that, episode 51. I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's like a month away probably. So the world could explode by then. We'll never know. Until then, thank you guys for listening, whether you're live, whether you're listening to this, later. Thanks, Chris Wilson, PXU, JN, MQE, and Coalmine. That's you, Dave.
Hi.
Thank you all for being here. Until next time, now would be a very good time to go and read a fucking book. Why don't you do something on top of that? Here.
Ban things. Here in the West Canadian space. Ban things. Ban things.
Nicely done. Night, everybody.